good to see today. A nice mixture of young generation, middle-aged, old generation. Not daring to point my finger at anyone else. You see, these are the stages of life, isn't it? Birth, aging, sickness, and whatever comes afterwards. And I'm sure we heard many suttas, dhamma talks, especially about the theme of death, dying, contemplation, one's own mortality. But actually, I notice very rarely that we speak of aging itself. Right? Very rarely we speak about the process of aging. Even though it's also mentioned just in the middle of that whole chain from birth. It doesn't go straight from birth to death. So there's something in between. And this is the process of aging. And depending on where you are in your life, you might actually perceive aging even as a positive thing, isn't it? Especially for a young generation, I remember my nephews and my nieces. So when they are like 7 or 12 years old, and you tell them, wow, very nice, you've been growing up so much, you're becoming much older now. Oh, they're very proud, very happy, isn't it? Oh, now I'm already 13 years old, you know. But if you say to a 70-year-old person, wow, amazing, you're so old already, he's not going to be so proud, probably. So how come, huh? So sometimes in certain periods of our life, aging is perceived as a good thing, and at other times we are not so proud of it. Huh. So aging itself is just aging. It's just a natural process. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just what it is. But what makes it good or bad is our attachment, or our desires, or our fears. So since a young person still feels healthy and expects having a long life to come, aging is not seen as a bad thing. So, getting more mature, getting more experience, being allowed maybe then later to drive a bicycle or a motorbike or a car. So they're looking forward for becoming older, isn't it? But then at a certain time, when you get closer and closer to mid-age or even higher age, then you can also predict what is coming after. So then aging is not viewed in such a positive light anymore. But it's in itself neither good nor bad, it's just a process. So I would like today a little bit to discuss together not only the drawbacks, but also we use this Buddhist, the Dhamma method of seeing the asada, the codification, the good thing, and maybe afterwards we will also see the drawbacks, the danger of aging. But I think it's often underemphasized. What is actually the benefit of aging? Any idea? Are there no benefits of aging? Of growing older? Obviously, if we all would still be infants and behaving like infants and speaking like infants, I don't think we would appreciate that either. So, aging, growing up, seems to be quite positive, right? Get a free seat, huh? That's a great benefit. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a young person, then have to stand, right? So yeah, sometimes you get some benefit on account of being a bit elderly. People stand up to make seat. I was quite shocked the first time this happened to me. Why are you standing up for me? I'm so young. Maybe not anymore. Tickets we buy are cheaper, right? Sometimes, train tickets, public transport. Okay. Other benefits of aging? You're more learned and people seek you out for advice, right? Because you have life experience. Would you still want to be like 13, 15? Basically, you know only a very little bit about how to go to school, how to find your way. You don't know how to travel anywhere. When you need something from a certain office, you wouldn't know to which office even to go. You're not familiar with administration in your country. So many things you have yet to figure out. So with life comes experience, and people will seek you out, depending on how you've lived your life, probably also. But often then people will seek your advice. What is the best way of going about this and that? So you can contribute to others. Exactly. That's actually a good sign. It means that you have lived your life well if others are seeking you out for counsel and advice. It doesn't happen to everyone, you know. For some people we know, I wouldn't ask him for advice. Also, it seems that with life experience also comes a bit more confidence, isn't it? Often when we are in our teens, teens tend to be very self-conscious and very afraid and lacking self-esteem a bit. But as we grow older and gain life experience, also naturally there comes a stronger sense of confidence. So if you make any questionnaire and psychology tests, it turns out that people who are 50, in average, are much more confident than people who are 17 or 20. Yeah. Tend to be more equanimous when with life experience again, right? Why would that be the case? Well, because you have seen many things happen in your life. You encountered many good things, but also many difficult things. So having encountered maybe quite strong emotions and difficulties and problems and challenges in your life, yet you came out okay afterwards. So now something small happens, something is not quite right here or there, but it's trivial in comparison to the worst things that could happen, either to you or of stories that you've heard from your friends, what happened to them. So the mind becomes more equanimous. Okay, not so bad, you know, can happen, happens to everyone, certain things, yeah. So we don't take things so seriously. Sure, we take life seriously, our own conduct, our actions, wholesome and unwholesome, but also we have realistic expectations, and we know that trouble happens. Even the Buddha could not escape difficulties, is it? Even the Buddha was sometimes accused, even unfairly, of having hurt others or having done bad things. So nobody is free from blame and criticism. If even the Buddha is not free from that, how can we expect? How you come to criticize me? Right? So it's natural that sometimes we're subject to praise and blame, sometimes to good fortune, to bad fortune. That's all part of life. So by having experienced many of those ups and downs, the mind becomes more equanimous, yeah, more balanced. If you think back yourself, an earlier version of yourself when you were 15 or 20, I guess most of us, we might also have been much more temperamental, isn't it? More fiery. Would you still want to be that earlier version of yourself? How did it feel when you were like that? Not so nice, is it? So actually, if you have lived your life well, you might not have to want to be younger anymore. Maybe in some respects, maybe physically, it can be helpful. Yeah, sure, there's a difference between a 80-year-old person and a 25-year-old person. But in terms of mental well-being, you might feel more comfortable in your own skin compared to a young person who is young, attractive, smart, but then psychologically speaking, mentally speaking, spiritually speaking, still be almost like an infant. Now, we shouldn't underestimate young people either, you know. There are young people, young guys and girls who are really wise. And not just intelligent, but also wise, understand the world, understand the Dhamma. So don't look down on people just because they are young. That's also a mistake. The Buddha said certain great dangers. He cautioned, for example, he said, never underestimate and look down on a prince. He's not a king yet, right? A prince of a country, but he might soon become the king. So if you look down on the prince and are not on good terms with him, on the long term, it might harm you, right, once he gets into power. Also, don't underestimate a small fire. A small fire, it's just a small fire, I just let it burn, never mind. Well, he can develop into a huge fire within a short time. Likewise, never underestimate a young monk, a samana, like a novice. And this is a little bit similar to what I said earlier, because even a young monk can be highly attained. You don't know, he can be very wise. And insulting or treating him unkindly or rude just because it's just a junior monk, who cares? No, it can be highly attained. So we shouldn't underestimate young monks, but I think the same principles applies also to others, not just to monks. Young people in general can be wise, compassionate, spiritually developed. And to be honest, I have also seen older people who are not at all what we would consider wise, balanced, right? So it's not a guarantee. Old age is not a guarantee for wisdom. So yeah, like equanimity, balance. Any other benefits of aging? Yes, so oftentimes because of aging, you know that life is finite. We tend to spend our time more wisely. You know, I won't have another 50 years maybe not even 30 years. So how well am I going to spend my time? It's like the Buddha's reflection that he recommends to frequently undertake. The days and nights are relentlessly passing. How well am I spending my time? So yeah, a young person still having the expectation or hope that the whole life is in front of him or her. He might squander a lot of time with trivial, unbeneficial, useless things. Or things that don't really matter so much on the long run. And to some degree, it's interesting, when you ask people on their deathbed, and we monks are of some sort of fortunate situation, fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know, but we're often invited to this last moment situations when a person either has just passed away or is about to pass away, quite sick already. And sometimes you can have interesting conversations with a person who is at the end, or at the last stage of his or her life. And if you ask people, what are the things that you're really proud about in your life, what you have done? And also you can ask, what are the things that you regret, that you would have wished to do otherwise? The answers you get are actually very similar often. When you ask people, what are you proud about and happy? Almost nobody says, I have built this company, or I have earned that amount of money, or I have so many houses and cars. Nobody mentions that. Most people will mention something, I have raised a family, I've supported my children, I've contributed to this or that cause. You see, it's always about others. What people are really proud about, deep inside, is not what they have gained for themselves, but what they have contributed towards others. This can be family, can be friends, can be strangers, can be animals. But this is what, at the end of the day, really makes you happy with your life. Not what we usually think. Having dainties, having how much money on the bank account. You can't take it with you anyway, right? So, and then on the reverse, if you ask, what would you do you regret? What would you have done differently? It's again the same thing. Not having spent enough time with my family, not having been there when my children were young, things like that. So you see, like you said earlier, you spend your time more wisely when you get older, not just not wasting time, but also your priorities might be a bit different. Now, of course, for a young person, it's also fully suitable to emphasize on one's career and earn an income, support one's family. That is important. But there's maybe also a time or a certain value where it comes to diminishing returns. Sure, you can always earn more, you can always get another promotion, spend more time in your career, but how much more is that going to contribute now really to your well-being, to your value, to your family? At the beginning, if you earn nothing or if you earn 2,000 ringgit, that makes a big difference. But whether you earn 15 or 17,000 ringgit makes not much difference. Right? So the same amount, 2,000 ringgit more, makes huge difference at the bottom end, but not much difference up there anymore. So our values change. And therefore, we might spend our time more skillfully. So these are wisdoms, learning, lessons that come often with aging. Hopefully not only late in life, right? hopefully we are not squandering the first 70 years until we realize, yeah, I shouldn't spend my time like this. That's why we have the Dhamma, we have the Buddha's teachings to remind us, even hopefully while still in our 20s, 30s, yeah, actually, there's more to life than just this, than just that, than just Facebook. Who would have thought? Yeah. So these are the benefits of aging. What are the drawbacks then of aging? If we have so many benefits, so is it all rosy? Any drawbacks, any disadvantages of aging? Aching body. Aching body, yeah. Well, it's quite naturally, right? If you're anything more than 25 years old, probably one or another part from time to time will give you trouble. Maybe not all the time, but then sometimes even chronic disease, certain ailments, you might feel all the time a little in the background, or even more. So yeah, that's part of growing up and aging. And that can be difficult, right? Because the body also affects the mind. So it's not that easy to be in strong pain, but then maintain a cheerful, happy, positive outlook on life. It can be done, but it's not easy. So in that sense, young age is much better, or having a healthy body, being energetic. Yeah, energy, right? You get tired much more quickly, isn't it? Young time, you go hiking, you hike up to Maxwell Hill, come down. When was the last time you went up Maxwell Hill? On foot, I mean. Not with the four-wheel drive. Okay. So the energy is not the same anymore, right? Physical energy, but also mental energy of paying attention for a long time to a certain small task. Our mind gets exhausted. Again, these are things that can be trained, and you can maintain the mental energy until old age, but you would have to keep exercising that. Meditation is a good way of doing that, of training the mind to pay attention to the five senses, to the six senses, or even just one object. These are all very useful ways of keeping the mind active, alert, sharp and clear, which is the opposite of what usually is the tendency with old age. The mind gets more lax, more tired, more blur blur, as you like to say here. The same for the body, right? The body gets more lax, more tired, fatigued easily. Again, you can exercise the body, and a person in his 50s might be actually stronger than another one in his 30s who does not exercise. So it's not an excuse, right, necessarily. So these are the drawbacks. Any other drawbacks of aging? Loneliness. Yeah. Friends, family living maybe far away. Your children already grew up, so they're living their own lives. So now you're left behind here in Taiping. Have to come to Dims in the morning, sit together with the monks because they can't go anywhere else, so they have to be here. So yeah, then you know you're really getting old. So yeah, loneliness is a common phenomenon. So then how to do about that? Because loneliness also means you have less of a social circle, and that again impacts also our mental well-being. If you feel alone, left behind, and very rarely, some do, but not everyone really proactively go out and connect with their old friends, or sit in a coffee shop. Of course, on the one side, sitting in a coffee shop doesn't have a good reputation, but on the other hand, it's also a way of connecting with friends and with companions. So there is some value in having a social circle, and hopefully not just drinking alcohol all day, but meeting, having a friendly conversation, undertaking some activities together, hiking, watching the birds, whatever is your interest. Yeah, that's great. Meditating together, right? I'm not asking how many of you are doing that with your friends. Yeah. So a diminished social circle often is the result of that. Exactly. Other drawbacks. Becoming forgetful. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I'm asking because sometimes, just imagine you would still remember very clearly all the small things, all the trouble that happens during your life. And if that memory was still completely fresh, the same it was on the first day when you got into any trouble, maybe also when you get older, many of your friends, you might already have seen them pass away. If you get 70, 80, 90 years old, some of your friends are not around anymore. Your parents have probably passed away. Maybe even a child of yourself. So you might have a lot of difficult experiences early in your life. And the mind forgetting a little bit, you don't forget completely, but as time goes by, things tend to heal and things fade a little bit more into the background. That is actually a good thing. You wouldn't want to remember and to recall all those painful incidents as clearly as if it happened yesterday. So I think it could actually be a coping mechanism that in aging also our memories fade a little bit. But of course, if the fading is a lot and then we cannot function anymore normally in our life, then it's not a coping mechanism, then it becomes a difficulty, of course. The same with our dreams, right? Every night we have a dream or multiple dreams, sometimes quite frightful maybe and violent. Actually, we should be quite happy that we don't remember the dream during daytime anymore. And life continues without having now this strong memory of having been chased down by somebody half the night, right? So forgetting is not always a bad thing. But forgetting important things, can be troublesome. So many disadvantages also of aging. That's why the Buddha and in the Dhamma it is listed among the things of dukkha, of painful experiences, of suffering. So birth, aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, despair, these are all unpleasant things. So even though there are some benefits of aging, but also there's obvious drawbacks. So then now comes the price question. How to avoid aging? How to avoid aging? How can we stay young forever? Or how can we never grow old? What to do? Please tell me your recipe. Huh? Nobody? Any medicine? No? To stay young forever, avoid aging? Actually, the Buddha did tell us how to do that. People are surprised when they say the Buddha gave us the recipe how to avoid aging. And it's a very radical solution, but it is a very effective solution. He said, by avoiding the cause for aging, you can avoid aging. What's the cause for aging? Birth. Birth is the cause for aging. By being born, once you're born, it's like a package. You cannot avoid aging, you cannot avoid death. The Buddha's solution is to get out of samsara and avoid being born. That's how the problem starts. It sounds funny, right? It's so obvious. But once you're born, you cannot avoid aging. So the solution that the Buddha offered is to get out of samsara and avoid and stop the cycle of birth and death. Now, of course, once you're born already, aging it cannot be avoided anymore. But you might make effort to avoid future experiences of aging in future lives by practicing the Dhamma, by practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, and remove the causes for future birth, which is craving for becoming, craving for existence. Because as long as we have that craving or craving for sense pleasures, we will come back again and again. So how many more times would you like to have to go to school, fall in love, be disappointed, seeing your parents die, seeing your children die or suffer? how much more time would you like that? So there comes a point, having seen that often enough, the mind becomes disenchanted, dispassionate. No, thank you. I've seen enough. Almost like a war veteran, you know. Somebody who comes back from war, from the battleground after 5 years, having seen it all. Say, okay, thank you, I have enough. I don't want more of that. So having seen enough of samsara, for some people the wisdom grows to such a degree that they say, actually, I don't need this anymore. You don't need to have aversion, but you say, well, I'm not enchanted anymore by what samsara has to offer. I would like to get out of that. And then comes a sense of letting go of craving, of becoming. And then with the complete letting go of craving, there's no more cause for future birth. Because if there's no more karmic potential, no more energy that drives you to sense pleasures, to being born in a sense sphere, in a plane of existence where you can gratify the senses, not even fine material or immaterial. So at that time, there's no more cause there, no more fuel for future becoming. So this is then the Arahant who has no more future birth. But then as long as we still find enjoyment in that and say, oh no, I don't want to get out of samsara. Yeah, so long becoming will happen, aging will happen, and birth will happen. So you have a choice here. So if I can offer you right now, let's go enter Parinibbana. When this Dhamma talk is over, who is coming along? Are you sure? I'm not so sure. You know, you can't take anything with you, you know. No family, no friends. And it's not a state where you're blissful all the time. It's like the cessation of becoming, cessation of existence. It's not a blissful state where you're just joyful, the whole thing. It's what we call the bliss of Nibbana is because there's the absence of suffering, we call it blissful or joyful, but not in the sense of riding the roller coaster joyful. Joyful because there is no suffering, no sense experience. So it's the complete sensation of all becoming. So most people, when they really understand what it means, when they ask, who wants to come along? Maybe later. Ask me in 20 years. So why not? Because there's still attachment. There's still attachment to family, something you would like to experience, somebody who would still like to see, or maybe you would like to see your children grow up. Doesn't matter. So there's some hesitance. If somebody says, okay, you can enter Nibbana straight away, disappear, poof, maybe later. It's normal, it's okay, because if we had no craving for existence, then you would be an Arahant already. So it's understandable. So it's by seeing dukkha repeatedly and contemplating that the mind gradually, increasingly becomes dispassionate, disenchanted. And only then you're really ready for entering Parinibbana. So, aging is a good thing or a bad thing? Both, huh? It's a natural phenomena. The same as gravity. Is gravity good or bad? Well, depends what you want, right? If you want to live on Earth, it's probably a good thing. If you want to fly into outer space, it's a bit troublesome because you need a lot of energy to shoot the rockets up. If there were less gravity or none, it would be so easy. So, it depends. If you have a lot of clinging, craving, then aging is not a good thing. If you're attached to a young version of yourself, if you're attached to a young version of your partner, of your children, of your parents, then aging is not a good thing. But if you can accept change and are at peace with it, then aging can actually also have some positive sides. So that's why they call aging gracefully. No? So aging doesn't have to be something negative. You can age and grow in wisdom, grow in experience. And like Ms. Chen earlier said, people might seek you out for counsel. and you become still, or even more, a valuable member of your society, maybe even more than a person in his 20s and 30s, because you have life experience. And you have encountered many difficult situations yourself. Then a child, a grandchild, a neighbor, if being in a similar situation, you might be able to offer some counsel. Your life can still be of high value, even more maybe than at the time when you were 15 or 17. That's what I hope for all of us, that our life until old age will be fruitful, beneficial, and we do not grow old like an ox who only grows big in body, but his wisdom does not grow. But we grow in wisdom, experience, Dhamma, spiritual qualities, and in this way we remain valuable members of our society until the last day strikes.